spilling the tea this morning or this afternoon. I have a watermelon drink, pure watermelon. And it probably will end up on me soon. So I'm going to drive. I'm going to go pick up some things for Diego, actually, for the house build. And this is spilling the tea. And I'm going to tell you about why I love Mexico so much. I have this snack that I eat at the same time. Probably not going to go really well with watermelon juice, but anyway, let's just go. It is peeled chili mango. Now I'm hoping this is like what I had in Mexico. Oh no, it's not. It's not. No, it's not. In Mexico they have basically dried mango with chili flakes all over it. It's amazing. But this is called peeled chili mango. Anyway, let's try this. I don't know what this is going to be like. Oh my god, they're hot. Ooh. 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 They're actually spicy. Ooh. Gluten-free. Ooh. They're actually all right. Okay, one more, and then we're driving. Okay, we're driving. Oh, I'm putting you in there. We're on a mission. We have to get somewhere before 4 o'clock. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to go the other way. Actually, that's a better idea. So, why do I love Mexico so much? Spilling Tea series, where I tell you some travel stories. So, I've hinted a few times about, not hinted, but I've said, look, there's another story. Because there's always another story, right? So, I first went to Mexico as a 25-year-old. I've told you this spilling the tea. I can't remember which one it was, but there is a playlist and it will say Mexico. Oh, does it say Mexico? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's something I need to check. But anyway, I've ended up in Mexico because I was selling timeshare, and in America, illegally, as you do, and it wasn't going well. So a Scottish guy, two Scottish guys and myself ended up going to Cancun. Now, Cancun is renowned for having many timeshare resorts. So that's how I ended up in Mexico. But my fascination with Mexico started way before ending up in Mexico, because it failed in what we were doing, selling timeshare in America. So when I was selling timeshare in Australia, we had this book. We called it the Dream Book. And it was like basically a book that had all these resorts around the world. Some of the resorts were in Cancun, because there's many timeshare resorts in Cancun, and around the Caribbean, Aruba, Jamaica, okay, all those kind of Caribbean areas, right? And so I knew exactly in the book where the Caribbean was, because I would open it up when someone said to me, "Oh, I'd love to go to the Caribbean," in my little timeshare presentation that I always do. And I would be able to know exactly where they were, and I could tell you, a few things about some of the resorts, even though I'd never been there, right? But I, researched them, had a little look about them, had a read about their facilities, and knew that they've got all-inclusive resorts, big pools, all the things. It was very, very dream building, right? But it was dreaming for myself. Like, I was looking at it going, "Oh, look at that water." So when I was doing my timeshare presentation, I would say to people, John and Mary, could you see yourself in that pool? Would you be in the pool? Would you be at the beach? Caribbean, right? So Mexico has two sides. Obviously, they've got the Atlantic side. The Atlantic side? Well, they're right. You've got the east and the west coast, right? I'm talking about the east coast, where the Caribbean is. And man, like, I've only dreamed of seeing the water there in the Caribbean. I mean, actually seeing the Caribbean is like out of this world. The water is just so amazing. So in one of my last Spill in the Teas, I talked about how I ended up in the Caribbean. We arrived one night and we were staying at a timeshare resort on the beach in the hotel zone in Cancun. I could hear the ocean. And in the morning, I opened the curtains and I went, no way. Like, no way. It is super beautiful. Like, like beyond beautiful. It was turquoise water. It was white sand, blue sky. The air just smelled like, I don't know, just magic, right? So everything I'd seen in those pitch books or those books, out of the papers where I saw, like the papers, out of the brochures, I was literally looking at them, going, my world, my lucky stars have just aligned, right? I'm in the spot I've dreamed of going for so long. Well, maybe a year. I've been selling timeshare for about a year, but here I am standing in front of the Caribbean Sea, and like it is so beautiful. Like, I don't know if you've ever been or you've ever wanted to go to the Caribbean, but man, the Caribbean is just something else. Coming from Australia, we have beautiful beaches here. Given we do have beautiful beaches, okay, but just different, right? You always want something that you're not used to having, right? I mean, obviously up north in Australia, the north of where I live in Queensland, we've got the Great Barrier Reef. You've got the Whitsunday Islands. I mean, they've got turquoise water there too, white sand. Similar but different, right? Because in Mexico, you have different food, you have a different language, you have different weather. It's different, right? So I guess that's what you want. You want something different to what you have in your own backyard. So, as I said, I've ended up in Mexico for the first time in my life as a 25-year-old, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And that started my love for Mexico. Now, Mexico is way more than just working, right? I mean, I worked there for about 7 months selling timeshare, but it's the people. The people of Mexico are wowzers. They are amazing people. God, look at the sky behind me. Wow, that's cool. And so anyway, the the people I met. So when I was selling timeshare, I worked at one of the biggest timeshare resorts in Cancun. It's called the Palace Hotels. I wish I could show you what I'm driving over right now. Like, you can see, well, on one side I've got water, on the other side I've got water. I'm driving along a bridge. So I'm heading over towards off Redcliffe and on to into the Brisbane area. So anyway, the friends, sidetrack there. The friends I made selling time, I have kept for 26 years. So I'm 51 now. So at 25, oh no, it's just disconnected. I don't know if it's going to connect again. No idea. Anyway, let's just keep on yabbering. So I made some amazing friends. I mean, I would spend lots of time in training meetings, waiting around for my tour. I had to sell. Basically, my job was to pitch clients. I was obviously English speaking, so I could only talk to English speaking people. So I talked to Americans, Canadians, people from the UK, and telling them about the timeshare resort in Mexico, wanting them to buy into it, right? But my job was kind of like I'm there to make a friend, right? I'm there to make a friend, tell them a little bits and pieces, then the closer comes on and does the hard sell. So I'm the friend, the bad cop comes in and tells them the price. So I had a fun job, and the people that I worked with, the main friends that I worked with, were similar jobs to I did. So we were all, quite happy. I made some amazing friends, like really amazing friends. I mean, to tell you how amazing my friends were, I went and saw one of them get married last year in France. I love her that much that I went to her wedding in France. Another one of my best mates is Anna, and I've gone back to Mexico to see her a couple of times and see all my other friends, because when you make friendships, I don't know if you're the same, but a friend for life, right? I can keep friends for life, and that just shows me for, over 26 years, 25 years, I've kept these friends. And obviously I live in Australia, the other side of the world, right? But obviously Facebook is a new medium that we can send messages, put photos up. I can see what they're doing with their life, and I can see what they can see what I'm doing with my life. So that is how I've kept in contact with a lot of these friends. Um, one time I went back to Mexico after probably about 8 years of not living there, and I went there for a holiday, and I stayed with my friend for a month. I did share a bedroom and a bed with her daughter, because there was nowhere else for me to stay. I mean, I could have stayed with other friends, but I wanted to stay with my friend. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us anymore. Her name was June. She was a Scottish lass who, on a holiday in Mexico, fell in love with a Mexican guy, and then basically stayed, and then had 4 children. And unfortunately, she got a brain. No, she got breast cancer. I don't know. She got some kind of cancer, and it wasn't good. So unfortunately, I came to see her when she was in remission, and things were going okay. Unfortunately, after I left, things got progressively worse, and she has now passed away. But I treasure that time that I spent with her, living at her house. I mean, I did come and go a lot, right? I didn't use it like an Airbnb, but I got to spend and hang out with her a lot, and I'll treasure that time. Um, yeah, but that was just one friend. Another friend, Anna. So that same holiday, is it the same holiday? Yeah, same holiday. I went to Cuba with one of my friends, Anna. We flew over to Cuba for a long weekend, and yeah, it was amazing. I got to experience Cuba, and it's easy to get to Cuba from Mexico, right? Because from Australia to get to Cuba is like a pain in the ass. I mean, you just don't do it. It's just too hard, right? But from Mexico, flights go straight from the Cancun airport to Havana, so it's nice and easy. It was, mind you, that was like a long time ago now, 8 years ago. I'm sure things have got a little bit different, changed now. But it's a great hub for like getting to the Caribbean, because it's just a hop, a skip, and a jump over. A lot of cruise ships come into the Caribbean side, so a lot of my American friends, if they're cruisers, would have stopped off at Cozumel. Cozumel is a little island off the Caribbean side, off kind of Playa del Carmen. So there's Cancun, then there's Playa del Carmen, which is about an hour away, and then under Playa del Carmen is a place called Tulum, and that's quite popular. A lot of people know about Tulum, especially on social media. It's kind of souls a very dreamy place. Pretty much, yeah, I can't handle it anymore. So anyway, I did go back about 8 years after I was there originally, and then what happened, and I got a steady job, and I was moving up the ladder. And I've always dreamed about going back. I've always wanted to go back to Mexico for round two, to see my friends. But it's great to have a holiday, right, and spend time there. But you don't get to see everyone you want to see, and the food and the drinks and to see, right? So much that a week holiday, 2 week holiday, not enough. Even a month holiday wasn't enough for me. Sorry, I'm greedy, okay? So I always dreamt of wanting to go back there for take two and live there, right? How I was going to do that, I have no idea. But this is manifestation, right? You put it out to the universe, and you do just step out of this way. So I was in a relationship, and it was a pretty serious relationship. I had a good job. I was, climbing the corporate ladder, as you say, you do. And I was just like, you know what? This is not for me anymore. The whole relationship, there was many things that turned around that happened, but I was like, I'm done. Hadn't even had a thought about Mexico. It wasn't even a thought, right? But I ended up in Mexico. So I broke up with a boyfriend. Same time I lost my job. Not because I broke up with a boyfriend, because of reshuffling and work. Um, a lot of my work friends got all made redundant at the same time. We all lost our jobs, and So I was sitting, I had another month off, another month that I had to work the job till I left the job. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, where I was going to live. But anyway, I was looking at a share accommodation. So I was going to move from my house to a share accommodation. And then I lost my job, right? So then I was okay, well, I need to get a new job, right? But I had a lunch with a friend, and his name is Ivan. He used to be one of my best mates. Unfortunately, we've had a bit of a falling out over a vaccination that we all had to have a while ago. He was very for the vaccination. I was very against the vaccination. So that was really sad that we had our falling out over a vaccine. Back, the stream got cut because a phone call come through. It did connect through, so I hope this works. So my story ended with one of my best mates at the time, Ivan, who I worked with. He was one of my employees. We had a liquid lunch, as you do. Now, let's just go back a step. Ivan is actually Mexican. He's born in Mexico but raised in America. And we made friends because he used to own a Mexican taco shop across from where I worked. So I tell you, Mexico is definitely in my veins. It's in my blood. Everything Mexican I love, right? And it would make sense that I eventually had a Mexican boyfriend, which I'm coming to. So my friend had a Mexican taco shop across the road from where I worked. So I used to go over there for lunch, and I used to bring all my friends over. We used to have, I just love talking about Mexico, and I love talking to him about Cancun because he'd also obviously been to Cancun. Anyway, future comes, and I end up hiring him as a staff member. It was one of the best decisions I ever did was hire him. He was an amazing worker, amazing staff member, amazing friend. Unfortunately, as I said, we're not friends anymore for different reasons. We're still friends. It's just that we have, some indifferences. More that he has an indifference with me. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. So anyway, he goes, we're having a liquid lunch, Hawkesbury restaurant, and we're having Corona beers. Corona's very Mexican, right? We're having Coronas for lunch. No food, just Coronas. And he says to me, you have no job, Dora. You have no boyfriend, no mortgage anymore because it's now gone. Why don't you go to Mexico? You've been wanting to go to Mexico for so long. This is your opportunity. And I said, the first thing I said was, I can't do that. I've got to get a job. He goes, why? He goes, obviously, with breaking up with a boyfriend, you'll get a payout. And since you lost your job because I was made redundant, it wasn't my fault, you get a payout. So, you'll have a little bit of a bank balance. He goes, go and enjoy your life, right? So I was like, I could. Should I? Anyway, I went home and thought about it a bit, and I thought, you know what? Let's put it up to let's put it up to the universe. So basically, I wrote on Facebook, does anyone know, or would anyone hire Dora? Because basically, in the years that I hadn't been to Mexico, my friends in timeshare had moved up the ladder. They were now owners, managers of all these timeshare decks. So I thought, one post, put it out there. And now in Mexican time, Mexicans like 17 hours behind me. So if I put the post out at night time, was that the daytime? Anyway, I put it out at night time, and it got hit straight away. All my friends started commenting, messaging, and an hour later, one of my friends, Maru, sent me a message going, hey, are you serious? She goes, I'd hire you. She goes, I've got a new sales deck opening up in Puerto Venturas. If you can be here in a month, I will give you a job. And I'll give you a place to stay for a month till you find out where you want to, where you can get where you live. I went, huh? Okay. Now get this, guys. This is how the universe works, right? Not only did I get a place to live for a month in Puerto Venturas, which is like a really, really beautiful place on the Caribbean, right? And so it's just under Playa del Carmen. So it's about an hour and a half away from Cancun. I had never been there before, but it's a private gated community. I mean, you can go in there as a tourist, but they have, security on the doors to make sure that, you're not riffraff kind of thing. So anyway, I couldn't have landed at a better place. So literally, in a month's time, I was Actually, I think it was within a month. Within 2 weeks, I was actually there. Within 2 weeks, I'd left my job, well, because I had lost it, and I'd moved all my stuff to the share accommodation, and I'd moved. I paid my rent for 3 months and said, I'm off. I'm going to go off for 3 months. So my stuff was safe because it was at a share accommodation, and I went to Mexico. I thought I'd, do a 3 month, holiday stint. I ended up staying for 7 months because yes, I met a boyfriend, right? A Mexican boyfriend. So that was an amazing experience in itself. I mean, at the time, it probably wasn't amazing because, sorry if you're a Mexican guy, but Mexican guys are a little bit different, okay? They're Latino. Latin guys are they're passionate, but they also fight like buggery. Like, they are fighters. They're lovers and fighters. So I was used to, in my last relationship, fighting all the time. It was not good for me mentally, I'm going to be honest. It wasn't good to be like in another relationship where it's fight, fight, fight. But anyway, that's another story. But look, it was an experience having a Mexican boyfriend, and I did some amazing things because I had a Mexican boyfriend, right? I lived locally. I lived in a local area that I would never have got to experience if I wasn't a tourist, right? Um, so basically, what happened was I ended up living in Port Aventuras. I got a really, really cool. I booked. I got nothing to do with the boyfriend, and I stayed there for 6 months. Or was it 7 months? 7 months or so. I can't remember. 6 or 7 months, and I was obviously still with the boyfriend. I decided to go home because I had to get rid of my share accommodation house because I'd been paying rent now for 6 months and I wasn't even living in the house. And they were selling the house, so I needed to get my stuff out of it anyway. But I also would have made probably the best thing to do was to move all my things back to my father's house, so that I could come back to Mexico because I had the Mexican boyfriend, right? He can't come to Australia. It's very hard to come to Australia. So it was better for me to stay there. And I love Mexico, so why not? I was in the timeline, I was actually even trying to get my permanent papers for Mexico to be legally working there too. So I'd pay, I don't know, $1,000 or something to be to papers sorted. Anyway, in that process, I went back to Australia to sort out my house and then come back. In that time, it was about 6 months. I got a job here in Australia to help pay for some of the costs of, going back to Mexico. I went back to Mexico, and that's when I lived downtown with the Mexican boyfriend where he lived. And we lived in Playa del Carmen, but on where the locals lived. And it was a great experience because everyone spoke Espanol. So that's where my Spanish really, really took off. I started, talking to people in Espanol, going to the markets and all the shops. It was great because if you're staying in Playa del Carmen, the touristy thing, most people will speak English and they'll speak English directly to you because they just think you're a tourist. But people used to actually talk to me in Espanol because they thought I was Spanish, funnily enough. Obviously, I'm not. So, yeah, that was a really good experience. Do I remember much of my Espanol? Not really, I'm sorry. Not really. When you don't use it, you lose it. But basically, I stayed there for another 6 months. And in that time, I helped the Mexican boyfriend get a visa to come to Australia because I thought, you know what? I don't want to live in Mexico. I like to holiday there, but I can't make a job in timeshare, which was all commission only, and it's really difficult. It's really difficult to make money in timeshare. So I thought it was better for us to come to Australia, and our economy, or his economy, is definitely going to be better because Mexico is a really hard place to earn money, where Australia is they call it the lucky country for a reason, right? Most people can get jobs. He is actually still here in Australia. He's now currently, he got Australian citizenship. He's married to an Australian girl, and we're still friends. It didn't work between us, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually really happy with that. We're better off as friends, definitely. But we had a great experience together. We did some great traveling around Mexico, and as I said, I had some great things, holiday things and family things, meeting his family. I had Christmas with a Mexican family and experienced that. Like, that is something I will never be able to have ever again. Well, I mean, I could. My friends would probably invite me over, but I was part of a Mexican family, and they have the midnight dinner. I've never even heard about a midnight dinner. It was amazing. And then, Christmas Day is like a non-event in Mexico because everyone is like literally in a coma from having midnight dinner. Whereas in Australia, a lot of people celebrate, and for me personally, my family, we celebrate Christmas Day, 25th. So yeah, very different customs. But as I said, Mexico, it's the friends I made there, the experience I've had there. I haven't even touched on the food. The food in Mexico is phenomenal. Tacos, tortas. One of my favorite foods was cochinita pitbull. I'm saying it wrong, guys. But cochinita is spicy pork cooked under the ground, and they have beautiful. It's like a beautiful red color. It's the spice called ishoti. Shoti. And anyway, it's cooked on the ground. It's slow cooked for hours. They put it on tortas like a sandwich or a taco, soft tacos, guys, and put a bit of pickled onion, red onion on top, and some salsa. Oh my gosh, ooh la la, or I should say muy rico, which means very good in Espanol. And oh my god, the beers! I would on a Sunday, on the weekends, they would have a thing called like a barbecue, basically, where a lot of locals would set up like a big taco shop on the weekends. And this is downtown, right? I said, like, away from all the touristy traps. And it would be very, very cheap to get these tacos and tortas. And they would be made, like with love, man. They were made for, they were cooked overnight. And they were, as I said, slow cooked, and they just taste phenomenal. And then you would have a beer from across the road. So you would sit there and have tacos and a beer on a Sunday or a Saturday. Oh, I tell you, there's nothing better than that. I tell you, if I could click my fingers and go back to those moments, I would be there in a second, guys. It was such an amazing experience. And that food, oh, I can't wait to go back and go to some of those places because it was so tasty. So I'm just pulling up to where I need to go. I've got 5 minutes before they close, which is perfect. I'm here to get some things for the house that Diego is renovating. Woohoo! We are here in time. Thank goodness for that. So anyway, I'm going to finish this off with basically why Mexico is such an amazing place for me and why I can't wait to go back and why I love it so much is the people, the food, the beaches, the culture. I haven't even tapped on the beaches. I tapped on a little bit. Anyway, thanks for watching Spilling the Tea, which was spilling some watermelon juice. Ciao.